Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, the region's first climate conference for Gen Zs is taking place from September 8th to the 10th. And joining us this morning to talk more about the virtual conference is the communications lead at the Cropper Foundation, Ardeen Serju, and Associate Journal of CER and curator of the Voices podcast, Dr. Ariel Thomas. Ardeen, Ariel, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning, Kimberly. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course,
Hi,
happy
good
to have you
morning.
here
Thanks
as
for having
well.
us.
Ariel, I'll start with you first because the Journal of CER is the principal conference convener. And so I just wanted to know, what would have led the Journal of CER to have a conference, especially as we take Gen Zs in mind?
Thanks for having us this morning. This is something that is sort of at the heart of Caesar's passion, which is to give voices and a platform to young people.
Yeah.
Now, while the conference will be open to the plenary sessions, will be open to the wider public, we felt that it was important to give young people a platform that they could feel a sense of ownership of. Because Gen Z, while generational boundaries can be somewhat arbitrary, Gen Z sits at a very unique place where they feel a great amount of concern for these unpredictable changes that we see in the climate and this rapidly changing climate that could affect their ability to lead safe lives in the future.
Yeah.
At the same time, they feel relatively helpless to influence the policies and the decisions that could help to mitigate this crisis. And so this gives a space to equip them and to let them be heard on the different issues.
Yeah. Now, Ariel, of course, it's being touted as the region's first climate conference. And my question to you is why now?
Well, I think, when we look at the constant stream of negative news around climate change and climate adaptation, it's important that we take this moment to let young people's voice be heard. It's important that they know they have tools that they can use to influence the direction that we take our society collectively.
Yeah.
Particularly in the region, we are very vulnerable to changes in climate. And we are also at a moment where there's a lot of investment. There's a lot of funds being, pumped into the Caribbean by various, bodies. And, young people have an opportunity that they could, get projects going. They could, affect the way that things move forward.
Yeah.
So now is a perfect time to equip the young people to take hold of the resources that they have available.
And I see that the Cropper Foundation agrees because they have chosen to partner. So, Ardeen, I'm coming to you. Why did the Cropper Foundation choose to get on board?
Well, Kimberly, if you know anything about the NGO and nonprofit sector, you'd know that we thrive and I would say really survive on the basis of collaboration. That's how anything is done, is achieved. We cannot do anything on our own. And I think we at Cropper have really done an excellent job over the 23 years of our existence of collaborating across civil society, most recently now with private sector. And so this is just another step in that direction. And the leaders of both Cropper and CESA are actually good friends and
Right.
have worked together and continue to work together. So it just makes sense, to be honest. It's a cause we believe in. It's a constituency we want to support and equip in the work that we think they can do and the contribution they can make when we talk about climate justice and climate action.
Yeah. Now, I know that you just talked about the NGO sector and their involvement. Can you name a few other NGOs who have partnered with the organization? Because I know that civil society is showing their support as it relates to this particular conference.
Yeah, so we have quite a few. There is I Am Movement, there is the Heroes Foundation, Climate Tracker, Eco Vibes, the Barbados Environmental Conservation Trust. We also have out of Jamaica Girls Care. We have a couple private sector entities as well, Sadie Consulting, Itaka Solutions, Inventions and Creativity Through Arts, which is also a nonprofit agency. So
Yeah.
quite a few, and again, not just based in Trinidad and Tobago, but certainly across the region.
Yeah. Ariel, I want to continue our conversation as it relates to the young people getting involved because, first of all, it's entirely virtual. So tell us about the reason for going virtual and also some of the topics we can see discussed at the conference this weekend.
All right. Yes, that's a great question. I think we've heard Gen Z be referred to as sort of digital natives, So having this sort of virtual platform, it's quite natural for them to get engaged. It's quite easy for them to get engaged. Another thing is that it gives us a broader reach, so we're able to involve people from all across the region, and really get that intra-regional collaboration, where you could have someone doing a project in Jamaica, connecting with someone in Barbados, someone in Trinidad connecting with someone in Grenada. So I think it's important that I think COVID-19 taught us that we could get a lot done by meeting virtually. So, this was one of the reasons that we thought to go with a virtual conference.
Yeah.
We think that it will allow us to have a quite broad reach.
Of course. And in terms of the topics to be covered, and also we can touch on some of the featured speakers we can see as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so this event it will be quite dynamic. We're going to have plenary sessions, which are again open to the wider public as well. So not just Gen Z, but maybe you identify as a young activist. You're more than welcome to join all of the sessions, the open sessions, and these will all feature a keynote address on topics like talking the talk and walking the walk, and dealing with climate anxiety, which is something that particularly speaks to the place that young people find themselves in right now,
Yeah.
with the uncertainty about the future. We will also have boot camp sessions, which are more targeted to those who are, currently active in that space of climate activism, and they will then have access to training, hands-on, practical access to tools that they could use to hone their skills. How do you use social media? How do you engage with politicians? And how do you navigate that activism journey? So these will cover topics like navigating politics and climate science, with a focus on the Caribbean, because it's important that we don't just want people making noise, but we want them to have the facts, to have the tools, and to really root their causes and their projects in what is the evidence, what are the facts on the ground, and how can you then use that to make informed, wise decisions moving forward about our development as a region.
Yeah.
And finally, we will also have some time cut out for interaction, networking, to facilitate that sort of intra-regional networking that I mentioned before.
Of course. Adin, I'm coming to you because Ariel said a lot of things there in terms of the workshops, the boot camp, and I love that he also grounded in that sort of Caribbean context. But based on your experience, do you see a significant appetite for that sort of conversation here in TNT and, of course, across the region?
Well, Kimberly, just before I answer that very important question, can I just add that we do have a DJ on board as well?
Ooh,
And
who's the
he will actually
DJ?
be doing, his name is DJ Mix. He's actually a very young DJ.
Right.
He's winning competitions across the country, etc. And he will be doing some lunchtime jams for us from Friday through Sunday. So
Okay.
that's also a feature I think the Gen Zers or anybody from the Caribbean would really appreciate.
Yes.
But coming back to your question, uh, sorry, remind me what the question was, Kimberly.
So based on your experience, do you see a significant appetite for the kind of
Yes.
conversations that we're going to be having this weekend?
Well, what I would say is that there's certainly a growing appetite. I think as we all observe what's happening across the world, the actions that young people across the globe are taking in the interest of their futures and future generations as well. I think it has inspired a lot of conversation and action where that is possible in the context of our region, the politics, etc. I mean, of course, there are a lot of cultural considerations when we think of the roles that young people play and how young people live their lives, and specifically Gen Zers. But I do think there is growing interest in wanting to make a contribution, and they're keen to find those avenues to do that. And so, yes, I would say there's certainly a growing appetite for this kind of community.
Yeah, of course. And I'm coming back to you, Ariel, because based on the conversation we've been having, I mean, who is this targeted towards? Is it only for the person or the Gen Zer who is interested in climate change? Is it for somebody who wants to start a conversation but may not know exactly how to start that conversation? So who is it targeted to? And also, is it a screening process for those who will want to attend this weekend?
Right. So I would say the both of those groups, quite are very welcome to participate in the conference.
Yeah.
The plenary sessions are more open. for everyone, even those who may be interested, want to get a bit more information, would like to understand, what is all this that I see in the news? How do I fit? What is the influence that I can have?
Yeah.
And then the boot camp sessions, I would say those are more targeted towards, people who may already have some experience. They may already be participating in projects. And so they may already be active and would like to take it to the next level, know how to grow their expand their influence, grow their audience, and those types of skills we would help them to develop so that they would leave better equipped uh, to continue their journey.
Yeah. And is there a screening process for those who would have registered before?
Well, I can take that one,
Sure.
Kimberly. And so, yes, there is a screening process in the sense that the boot camps are really meant to target, as Ariel mentioned, those who are currently engaged in activism of some kind.
Yeah.
And so we have questions in the registration process that really drill down into that to get some more information on age, level of activism, etc. And that's really just to say, well, you qualify for the boot camps because as Ariel also mentioned, the plenaries are open to everyone,
Right.
whereas camps are meant to be more targeted. So yes, the screening process is really just to be able to give the people who are intended to benefit from this community experience and capacity building experience first dibs.
Of course. And Ariel, I'm coming back to you. And I know it's a bit premature because it's the first of its kind, but can we expect to see this being an annual thing? Can we expect a 2024 or a 25 edition?
Well, yes. So, like you preluded, it's a bit early to say. So, we want to see what will be the engagement and how the program goes and what's the actual demand before we make any commitments to making it an annual thing, maybe biannual. But what we think is that it may not always be focused on Gen Z. But we would like to adapt to the needs of the region as we grow and as we progress and as things change rapidly, as we all see. We want CESAR wants to be right there, and so we will adapt. If there's need for another iteration of this, we'll be happy to do that again. Maybe there's another need in a couple of years. So it's all depending on how things go moving forward, and we're ready to adapt as it goes.
Yeah. And beyond the conference, what can we look forward to from the Journal of CESAR?
So we have a lot of projects in the pipeline. We've, as you see, we've been partnering with the Cropper Foundation and many others to bring resources to young people and the wider public. So following the conference, we plan to set up an incubation framework so that young activists can access the mentoring and the guidance or resources that they may need to build their own capacity. So this is really, it's meant to be fun and experience, but it's also meant to be a capacity building exercise for young people. And we also have some existing platforms that we intend to make available for young activists that they can champion their causes, network a bit more. For example, we have a podcast series, as you mentioned at the top, called The
Yeah.
Voices. And so the details of this are still being formulated, but we would like to offer this as a vehicle for young people to share their projects and engage a wider regional as well as international audience. So these are some of the things that we hope to leverage for the young people, leverage our platform for young people.
And Ardeen, quickly before we go, if we need to get any more information, is there a website or phone number that we can reach the organization?
Well, what we're advising folks to do is to really contact us through our social media platforms. So that's Journal of CESAR with an E at the end on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. Also, the Cropper Foundation, the same Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So the signups are all via social media, which I think is really catering to our intended audience, our
Of
Gen
course.
Zers. We know that's where they live.
Yes.
So it's really easy. It's free, of course. So just hit us up there. Registration is very simple, straightforward. It doesn't
Nice.
take any time at all.
Of course. Well, Ardeen, Ariel, let me thank you so much for joining us this morning. All the best with the conference this weekend. I hope that Gen Z can appreciate the conversation that's about to be had this weekend about climate change. So thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much.
one. And that, of course, was Dr. Ariel Thomas, advocate at the Journal of CESAR and curator at the Voices podcast, and also communications lead at the Cropper Foundation, Ardeen Serju, talking about a very important climate conference for Gen Zs that's taking place this weekend.